This is a screencast demonstration of the Web Fonts extension for the Joomla platform. And in this demonstration, we'll cover what Web Fonts does and how to install and use it. On the web, we're used to working with what are called web-safe fonts. And what Web Fonts does is it allows you to move beyond the small subset of web-safe fonts and into a much larger, prettier set of fonts. So this is the normal Joomla install site we're used to seeing. And now this is with Web Fonts installed and configured, and you can see it looks much better. First, we'll look at installing it. The project's hosted on GitHub, and when I'm installing the component and plugin, I'm just going to grab the links from GitHub. Here's the component, and I'm going to use install from URL to install it. While that's installing, I'll go ahead and get the plugin link. And use the same method to install it. Immediately after installing the plugin, we want to go to Manage, do a search for Web Fonts to show the component and plugin, and we want to make sure and enable the plugin because you'll need it running in order for Web Fonts to work properly. Once we've enabled the plugin, we just want to go to Components, Web Fonts, and load it up. This is the first screen that you'll see, and it's just going to tell you need to select some fonts to import. So we're going to go ahead and click that link. Currently, there are only 2 vendors set up with Web Fonts, fonts.com and Google. And first we'll look at fonts.com. This is the setup screen you'll see when you load up fonts.com. And there are several ways to set up your account, but most of you are going to click that Create Account button on the bottom and fill out this information and sign up for a free account. Once you've done that, you'll receive an email from fonts.com and you'll need to log into their site and set a new password. With that new password, you can go ahead and use this screen to enter the email and password and hit the Get Key button, and that will get you all set up to use fonts.com. You can also log into your account and find the authorization key and enter it in the field above that, and that will also get you set up to go. So I'm going to go ahead and get the key. And the next step with fonts.com is to set up a project. And a project allows you to basically manage just one site. So you could have several projects and use one fonts.com account to manage many different sites. It doesn't matter what the name is, but when you enter your domain in, you want to make sure that it's accurate for the domain you're working on because fonts.com is going to look at that before delivering you the fonts that you're requesting. And they won't show if you don't have the correct domain. I'm recording on this on a smaller screen, so the filters overlap a little bit here, but this is basically the font screen you'll see. And you can see that for fonts.com, there's a variety of filters, a lot of information you can filter by. And currently I'm filtering on free fonts, so these are all free fonts we're looking at. I'm going to go ahead and filter for sans serif fonts. I don't know if I'm saying that, sans serif, sans serif, I have no idea. Anyways, here are the fonts. I'll just choose one here. Now that I've selected the font, we can see some basic information about it and also what it looks like with a slightly longer example. I'm going to go ahead and add it to our project. And now that I've added it, you can see that the font tile is slightly grayed in. You can see that we can also remove it if we click it again through this screen. Next, we'll click Add Fonts and go back to see the vendors, and we'll add a font from Google. And you'll notice that with Google, there's no setup, but there's less information and less fonts that you can use. You can do a keyword search, and you can filter by character sets. And if we look at a font, there's less information. On the upside, all of Google's fonts are free, and it's quick to use, which is nice. So we'll go ahead and add a Google font here, and then we'll go back to our style sheet to work with it. So this is our style sheet, which generally is also the first screen to load. And if we look at each font closely, we can see that it says the name and also the vendor where we got that font from. Additionally, if we hover over the font text, it'll show a little more information about the font. And for fonts.com, it will tell you that it'll take a few minutes once you've added a font before it begins to show correctly. And for Google, it'll tell you that if you've added a Google font and you see more than one example, that's because there's more than one character set for that font. Next, let's assign some selectors to elements. On the front end, I happen to know that these elements are heading level 2 anchor text and a main div paragraph text. So for the fonts.com font, I'm going to set it to the main P element. I'm just going to hit add to add that selector. Next, for the Google font, we'll go ahead and assign it to a heading level 2 anchor text. And I'll hit add. And if we check out the front end, we will see that our changes have been applied. These changes are sort of hard to read, so I'm going to go ahead and flip those selections to their opposite. And the style sheet we were looking at actually has two views, a font-based and a selector-based. And so now we'll take a look at the selector-based view. You can see that it allows you to make changes much quicker for multiple fonts. And I also went ahead and set some fallback fonts there on the right side. And so now we have fallbacks for each of the font choices we selected. Let's check it out again. Looks good. That concludes this screencast demonstration of the Web Fonts extension. The project is hosted on GitHub, and you can find the extension through the Joomla extension directory by searching for Web Fonts. I'd also like to thank fonts.com for graciously sponsoring this project, both their own part and also Google's part. I hope you enjoyed the screencast. Thanks for watching.